Do you have a 2008 through 2011 Ford Escape or Mercury Mariner that you need to replace the front brake pads on? Because today I'm going to show you a couple of really important tricks when doing that job to make sure that it's done right the first time and you don't have an issue down the road. My name is Andrew. Welcome to Rogue Wrenching. Step 1, raise and support the vehicle, remove the front tire. As always, safety glasses and jack stands are your friends. So, step 1, pop the tire off. Now that the wheel is off, we're ready to take the next step, which is going to be compressing the brake caliper piston. Now, as your brake pads wear, that piston moves farther out as it keeps pushing that pad because the pad's getting thinner and thinner. So, before we can install new, thicker brake pads, because they're new, haven't worn down, we need to compress that piston. It is easiest to do that while it's still bolted up. So before you take anything else off, it's really easy to install a tool and just pry on it and squeeze it down without any kind of a special tool required. So I'm going to show you how to do that, but more importantly, I'm going to show you a very critical step in doing that to make sure you don't damage other parts of your braking system. The first step is to loosen this bleeder screw right here. Now, the reason it's important to crack that screw loose is so that all the dirty fluid that has been sitting in your brake caliper for the last however long you've been driving doesn't get pushed backwards back up through the ABS module and the master cylinder to get back to the reservoir. So step 1 is crack that screw loose. If you've got a water bottle and some tubing laying around, you can build yourself one of these guys, which is nothing more than a water bottle with a wire hanger wrapped around the top so you can hang it, and a little bit of clear tubing that runs down through the lid. So crack the screw loose, put the tube on, and then I'll show you how to pry this brake caliper back. So when I'm doing these, I like to install the wrench over it first and then push the hose on. That way there's no spillage of the brake fluid. Now, this is going to be a 3/8 box end wrench here I'm using. I like to use the box end because it reduces the risk of rounding over the hex on that bleeder screw. So then we're just going to crack this puppy open, walk it around about a half turn there. You can see the brake fluid starting to ooze out. Just hang that guy anywhere that's convenient. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pry the caliper forward, which in turn is going to take this piston and push it that way into the caliper. That's also going to verify we don't have a stuck slide pin or anything like that, and we'll cleanly push our fluid down into our catch bottle without making any kind of a mess. So you're just going to take a long flathead screwdriver, insert it in at kind of an angle like that, and then just pull it, and you can see how easily that caliper just slides forward. Now this is way easier to do now because I've cracked that bleeder screw loose. So cracking the bleeder screw loose helps allow dirty fluid to go out and not back up through the system, but it also makes compressing the caliper much, much easier. So I'm gonna keep pulling on it, make sure we get it all the way compressed, and that feels like we're about there. So while I'm pulling, keeping tension on it, then we'll reach over here, use that wrench, tighten up that bleeder screw so we don't suck any dirty fluid back in, and if any fluid gets pulled back in, it'll be clean fluid from the reservoir. To remove the brake calipers, there are 2 bolts for the caliper slide pins, which are right inside of here. So just take a little pocket screwdriver and push that cap out of the way. So there's the cap that just keeps the dust out. Don't lose that, but it just slides right out. There's nothing holding that in other than friction. And then you'll take your 9mm hex, start it in, if we can. There it is. Get it in there, and then a ratchet to crack that puppy loose. Now you can see what that bolt looks like. It's just a short threaded with a 9mm hex down the end of it. Slide that puppy out, and that's all there is to it. There's one of these at the bottom and at the top, so we'll take the bottom one out next. The next step is probably the most challenging part here, and that's to remove this spring clip piece. To accomplish that, take a small screwdriver, work your way up underneath the clip, and it'll pop out. So as you can see on the end of this clip, it's got a little ear right there that holds it in, so you just gotta lift it up and then it comes out. So again, pry it up, pull it out, and the whole clip comes right out of there. At this point, the caliper simply comes right off the end like that. Roll it over. It's always important when you're working on brakes. See how this line is right here? I'm not hanging the caliper off that line. It's not good for those lines to have the weight of a caliper hanging off them. Brake pad there just pops right out, quick and easy. This one slides right out the front. Again, same thing, super quick, super easy. Now we are going to install the new brake pads, put the caliper back on, and button it back up. Today we're using BrakeBest Select Ceramic. These are OE comparable brake pad replacements from O'Reilly's, not a sponsor yet. This is a ceramic braking material, which means that these brakes are going to perform at or above what the factory brakes we just took off were performing at. So BrakeBest Select Ceramics, great choice for brake pads, fairly economical, definitely cheaper than buying factory with the same kind of quality. So if you're looking for brake pads, definitely recommend these guys from O'Reilly's. At this point, reinstallation is basically the reverse of removal. So that pad clips in there, that one just sets on there. We'll take the caliper, put it back on, bolt it up. The very important thing to note here is these caliper slide pins that we took out. These guys, these are lubricated with a silicone grease, so dielectric grease is what goes on these. So if you're doing one of these jobs, when you have this thing apart, take and smear a little bit of dielectric around that shaft before you slide it in and bolt it up. That'll help keep your slide pins lubricated and prevent any issues down the road of uneven brake pad wear or anything like that. So that's about all that there is as far as stuff you need to know to be able to do this job. It is very important to torque your lug nuts to the correct specification and in the correct sequence so as to not warp your brake rotor and so as to make sure your wheel doesn't fall off. This vehicle, the correct and factory torque spec, is 100 foot-pounds, and you're going to torque it in a star pattern like so. Very, very, very important for your safety and everybody else out on the road. All right, you guys, that is basically everything you need to know about changing the front brakes on one of these cars. There are some universal things here to remember for every car that you work on, and really important to remember. Number one, crack that bleeder screw open when you're compressing the brake caliper. It's going to make your job easier, and it's going to prevent you from doing damage to other parts of your brake system, because your brake system was designed to have fluid flow one direction, and when you force it back the other direction, especially when it's dirty fluid, that can cause damage. It doesn't always, but it can cause damage. So it's cheap insurance and it makes your job easier. So crack the bleeder screw, lubricate your slide pins. Again, dielectric grease. Didn't show it because I totally forgot to record it. And number three, torque your wheels down. Also, number four is obviously going to be the safety, and that's safety glasses and jack stands. So that's what you need to know to do this job and to do this job safely and correctly and right the first time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate your support. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys in the next video.